11:51 p.m. My phone lit up in the dark, breaking the silence of my frozen living room. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a happy belated birthday to my 7-year-old daughter. It was a Venmo request from my mother, Beatrice. $1,850. The memo line was an order, not a request. Kylie's Sweet 26 venue deposit. Due now, or we lose the date. Due now. 2 days ago, Beatrice left my daughter, Lily, waiting at the window for 3 hours. She ghosted a 7-year-old's birthday party to go to a brunch. She broke my child's heart without a second thought. And now, 48 hours later, she expected me to fund a luxury party for my 24-year-old sister who refuses to work. The audacity didn't make me cry. It made me cold. It made me precise. I unlocked my phone. I didn't text back. I didn't argue. I opened Venmo. I typed in the amount, $1. In the notes section, I wrote 3 words. Fee for service. I hit send. I stood up, walked to the front door, and threw the new deadbolt I had installed that morning. The heavy steel clicked into place with a sound like a gunshot. I thought that lock would keep them out. I didn't know it was just the starting bell for the worst night of my life. Before I tell you what the police found when they broke down that door 20 minutes later, tell me in the comments. What is the pettiest thing you've ever done to a toxic relative? I leaned my back against the door and listened to the silence. For the first time in 29 years, the barrier between me and my mother wasn't an emotional suggestion. It was solid steel. My phone buzzed in my hand. Then again. Then a continuous, angry vibration that rattled against my palm. Beatrice. You ungrateful little brat. Send that money back right now. Beatrice. Do you think this is funny? Ignoring your family? Beatrice. Open this door, Jasmine. I know you're home. I see your car. I didn't block her. In logistics, you never destroy data. You archive it. I swiped the notifications away and walked into the kitchen. I checked the timestamp on the security feed. 11:58 p.m. I'm a logistics manager for high-priority medical freight. My entire life is built on precision, chain of custody, and knowing exactly where a package is at every second. If a shipment goes missing, I don't panic. I check the logs. I verify the seal. I lock down the perimeter. Tonight, my house was the shipment, and I was finally securing the cargo. I walked the perimeter of my new home. It was an old 1920s bungalow in the middle of a brutal Chicago winter. The kind of house that groans when the wind hits it. I checked the back door. Locked. I checked the ground floor windows. Latched. I checked the thermostat. 72 degrees. Outside, it was 10 below zero, a wind chill that could freeze skin in minutes. Inside, it was warm. It was mine. I walked into the living room, where my daughter, Lily, was asleep on the couch. She was wrapped in a heated blanket, her breathing slow and rhythmic. I tucked a stray curl behind her ear. She looked so peaceful, completely unaware that her grandmother was currently exploding via text message a few miles away. For the first time since I bought this place, I felt like I could breathe. I had done it. I had drawn the line. I had paid the fee. And now the contract was void. I went to the kitchen counter and opened a bottle of red wine I'd been saving for a special occasion. I figured surviving my family without apologizing counted as special. I poured a glass. The dark liquid swirled, catching the light from the overhead lamp. I watched it settle. I felt a smug, warm sense of satisfaction spreading through my chest. They couldn't get in. They couldn't hurt us. The locks were new. The walls were thick. The heat was running. I picked up the glass. I brought it to my lips, ready to toast to my freedom. Then, the hum of the furnace stopped. It didn't cycle down. It cut out. Instantly. A second later, the overhead light flickered and died. The room plunged into absolute, suffocating darkness. I froze, the wine glass hovering in the black air. Silence rushed back into the house. But this wasn't the peaceful silence of safety. It was the heavy, terrifying silence of a trap springing shut. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. In the pitch black, the silence of the house was so absolute it felt heavy, pressing against my eardrums. Then came the sound that stops your heart. Whoop whoop. It wasn't the distant wail of a passing ambulance. It was the sharp, aggressive chirp of a siren directly outside my window. Red and blue light exploded through the front curtains, strobing against the living room walls like a chaotic disco. My shadow danced violently across the floor. A voice, amplified and distorted by a bullhorn, tore through the winter air. Police, occupant of 2408 Maple Street. Exit the residence with your hands in the air. Do it now. I set the wine glass down on the counter. My hand didn't shake. My mind went into the cold, gray space it usually reserved for tracking lost medical shipments in a hurricane. This wasn't a welfare check. You don't bring bullhorns and strobes for a wellness check. This was a high-risk stop. This was swatting. Beatrice hadn't just called the police. She had weaponized them. I looked at the thermostat on the wall. The digital display was dead, but I could already feel the temperature plummeting. It wasn't just the power outage. The house was losing heat, violently, faster than it should. I realized then why the furnace had cut out so abruptly. She hadn't just called 911. She had gone around the back. She had physically tampered with the gas line. She was trying to freeze us out. Lily sat up on the couch, rubbing her eyes, the red and blue lights reflecting in her terrified pupils. "Mommy? What's happening?" I moved to her instantly, crouching low. "It's okay, baby. It's just a loud noise. We have to go outside for a minute." "It's cold," she whispered, her teeth already starting to chatter. "I know. Keep the blanket." I walked to the front door. The pounding started. Heavy, authoritative fists against the wood. "Open the door, or we will breach." I unlocked the deadbolt, the same lock that had given me such comfort 5 minutes ago, and swung the door open. I was blinded. Spotlights from 2 cruisers hit me in the face. I squinted against the glare, raising my empty hands high. Through the haze of light, I saw them. 3 officers, weapons drawn, taking cover behind their doors. They were ready for a firefight. "Hands! Let me see those hands!" the lead officer screamed, his hand hovering near his holster. "I am unarmed!" I shouted back, my voice clear and loud. "I am exiting the house. With my daughter." I stepped onto the frozen porch. The wind hit me like a physical blow. 10 degrees below zero, cutting right through my thin sweater. And then I saw her, standing safely behind the line of police cars, wrapped in a thick fur coat, was Beatrice. She wasn't cowering. She was pointing. "That's her!" Beatrice shrieked, her voice shrill enough to cut through the wind. "She has a knife. She's on drugs. She's holding my granddaughter hostage. Officer, don't let her hurt the baby." She was performing. It was the greatest role of her life. The grieving grandmother, the savior, the victim. She looked at me, and for a split second, the mask slipped. She smiled, a tiny, tight smile that said, "You thought a lock could stop me?" The officer rushed up the steps, grabbing my wrist and spinning me around. "Turn around. Do it now." Cold steel clicked around my wrists. Not the lock of my door. The lock of handcuffs. Lily screamed. "Mommy, I've got the child!" Beatrice yelled, surging forward past the police line, her arms open wide like a vulture's wings. "Grandma is here, baby. Grandma saved you from the bad mommy." I stood there, shivering in the snow, metal biting into my skin, watching my mother rush toward my daughter while the police held me at gunpoint. The officer shoved me against the siding of my own house. The rough wood scraped my cheek. "Spread your legs. Do it now." I did as I was told. I felt his gloved hands patting me down, searching for the knife my mother said I had, searching for the drugs she said I took. 10 feet away, Beatrice was weeping into the collar of her fur coat, putting on a performance worthy of an Oscar. "Please, officer, be gentle. She's not herself. She's having a psychotic break." A psychotic break. That was her favorite narrative. If I was crazy, then everything I said about her was a delusion. If I was crazy, she was the victim. For a second, looking at her triumphant, tear-stained face, I asked myself the question everyone asks when they hear my story. How did I let it get this far? I'm a grown woman. I manage millions of dollars in freight. I negotiate with union bosses and customs agents. So why was I standing here, handcuffed in my pajamas, letting a woman who hadn't worked a day in 20 years destroy my life? It wasn't weakness. It was training. They trained me like a service dog. From the time I was 5, the command was simple. Sit. Stay. Pay. I didn't know the leash was imaginary, until they kicked my daughter. I closed my eyes against the flashing blue lights, and for a split second, I wasn't on my porch. I was 18 years old, standing in our kitchen, holding a rejection letter from a student loan provider. I had been accepted to my dream school. I had a scholarship. All I needed was a small loan for housing, but the bank said no. They said my debt-to-income ratio was too high. I didn't have any debt. I didn't even have a credit card, but Beatrice did. I found the statements in her drawer a week later. 5 credit cards opened in my name the day I turned 18. $65,000 in debt. Designer clothes, spa treatments, family expenses. When I confronted her, she didn't apologize. She cried. She collapsed on the floor, wailing that she did it to keep the lights on, to feed us, to survive. She weaponized her incompetence. You'd send your own mother to prison over money? You'd ruin the family over numbers? So, I didn't go to college. I went to work in a warehouse. I spent 10 years scanning barcodes and lifting pallets to pay off purses I never carried and dinners I never ate. I paid her debt with my youth. She's unstable. Look at her eyes. Beatrice screamed from the sidewalk, snapping me back to the freezing present. She needs to be committed. The officer spun me around. Ma'am, do you have anything sharp on you? Needles? Blades? I looked at him. I looked past him to Beatrice. She was smiling again. That tiny, hidden smirk. She thought she was looking at the 18-year-old girl who worked double shifts to buy her forgiveness. She thought she was looking at the daughter who would take the fall to save the family image. But the cold air does something to you. It wakes you up. I stopped shaking. The fear evaporated, replaced by the icy, mechanical precision of my job. I stopped seeing a mother. I saw a liability. I saw a shipping error. I saw a discrepancy in the manifest that needed to be corrected. I took a deep breath of the freezing air. It tasted like clarity. Officer, I said, my voice steady, cutting through the wind. I am not unstable. I am not high. And I am going to prove it. I looked the sergeant dead in the eye. Check my pocket. The sergeant hesitated. His hand hovered over my coat pocket, his eyes flicking between my calm face and Beatrice's hysterical sobbing. Ma'am, he said, his voice tight. If I reach in there and find a weapon, you won't find a weapon, I cut him off. My voice was low, flat, and professional. You will find an iPhone 15 Pro. It is currently recording audio. It is also the master control for the cloud security system I installed 8 hours ago. Beatrice realized the danger instantly. Don't listen to her, she shrieked, lunging forward until a rookie officer held her back. She's trying to hack something. She's deleting the evidence. Smash the phone. The sergeant ignored her. He reached into my pocket and pulled out the device. Unlock it, I said. Hold it up to my face. He did. The lock screen clicked open. Open the Blue app, I instructed. Go to Live View. Then scroll back 15 minutes. Establish the timeline. In logistics, we call this chain of custody. When a shipment is disputed, when a client claims a package was damaged or stolen, you don't argue. You pull the logs, you show the timestamps. You prove, without a shadow of a doubt, exactly where the cargo was and who touched it. Tonight, the cargo was my sanity. The sergeant tapped the screen. I watched the reflection of the video play in his eyes. He saw the feed from 11:50 p.m. He saw me sitting on the couch, not pacing, not screaming, but scrolling on my phone. He saw the feed from 11:55 p.m. He saw me walk to the door, check the lock, and pour a glass of wine. No knife, no drugs, no hostages. He saw the feed from 12 a.m. He saw the lights cut out. He saw me grab my daughter and wrap her in a blanket to protect her from the sudden cold. The video was silent, boring, and undeniably sane. The sergeant watched it twice. Then he looked up. The tension in his shoulders dropped. He looked at the house, dark and silent. He looked at me, shivering in handcuffs. And then, slowly, he turned to look at Beatrice. She was still screaming, but the pitch had changed. It wasn't the scream of a terrified grandmother anymore. It was the desperate, high-pitched wail of a liar who knows the walls are closing in. She doctored it, Beatrice yelled, pointing a shaking finger at the phone. She's a tech genius. She faked the footage. Beatrice, the sergeant said. He didn't call her ma'am this time. His voice was heavy with exhaustion. Step back. Now. He turned back to me. He holstered his weapon. He fished the key from his belt and unlocked the cuffs. The metal fell away, and the blood rushed back into my freezing hands. I'm sorry, ma'am, the officer said. We received a credible hostage threat. It wasn't credible, I replied, rubbing my wrists. It was a diversion. I pointed to the utility meters. Before you leave, document the gas main. The furnace didn't fail, it was shut off manually 3 minutes before you arrived. That's malicious property damage. And child endangerment. The sergeant ordered his officers to check the meter. Beatrice stopped screaming and backed toward her car. I thought I'd won facts. Video. Logic. I was wrong. Beatrice didn't panic. She recalibrated. Her tears vanished. Her posture straightened. You're right, officer. Whatever happened to the gas line is tragic. But it's 10 below zero. This house has no heat. Under Illinois law, you can't leave a child in an uninhabitable home. My stomach dropped. The thermostat flickered. 52 degrees. Falling. I realized what she'd done. She created the emergency, and now she was weaponizing the rules. I have heaters, I said. Blankets. We'll go to a hotel. With what car? She smirked. I looked outside. My tires were slashed. Officer, Beatrice said calmly. I'm the child's grandmother. I have heat, a car, and a safe home. If you leave her here and she gets hypothermia, that's negligence. The sergeant hesitated, trapped by procedure. Ma'am, I can't leave a minor in a freezing house. Beatrice stepped toward my daughter, already rehearsing tomorrow's emergency custody filing. I didn't scream. I didn't touch her. I thought like a whistleblower. Officer, I said, stepping between her and Lily. You cannot release a child to this woman. She is under active federal investigation. She laughed. Now I'm a federal criminal? Not a grandmother. I corrected. A suspect. I handed the sergeant a sealed envelope stamped U.S. Postal Inspection Service. Aggravated identity theft and wire fraud. There's a federal arrest warrant inside. Run her ID. The sergeant opened it. His face changed. Dispatch confirmed the hit. Beatrice Allen, he said sharply. Turn around, hands behind your back. Her mask shattered. You trapped me. No, I said. I audited the books. She had stolen over $100,000 using my identity. I'd let it happen long enough to cross the felony threshold. When she used the mail to facilitate the fraud, it became federal. The cuffs clicked shut. As they drove her away, the sergeant reopened the gas valve. The furnace roared back to life. I locked the door, wrapped Lily in a heated blanket, and kissed her forehead. Is Grandma coming back? She asked. No, I said. She's gone. For good. The thermostat climbed. The house warmed. Sometimes you don't survive by proving you're innocent. You survive by proving the other side is criminal. If you're waiting for a sign to cut them off, this is it.